Well, good morning, everyone. It's been a couple days since we've picked up the camera. We've been enjoying some time with our family in Nanaimo. We need to get back to the adventure. So today we are summiting Mount Arrowsmith.
In order to get to the trailhead, we had to do about 17 kilometers of pretty gnarly logging roads. Luckily, it's Sunday of the long weekend, which means there's no logging trucks. So the only true obstacles on the road are the potholes and the rocks. But you know what? Our minivan is doing pretty good to this point. We've taken it down some pretty aggressive logging roads, and so far, so good. I don't want to jinx it. Unfortunately, I don't have any wood to knock on.
That does mean, though, that a lot more people are here because it's the weekend. So I think it's going to be a pretty busy trail.
It's only 3 kilometers each way, 6 kilometers round trip, but we're going to be gaining over 1,000 meters of elevation. There's no flat spots. It's straight uphill the entire way. All right, guys, here's Mount Arrowsmith. That's the summit up there. That's what we're pushing for today. There's a few switchbacks on the way up, and then apparently there's a pretty straight up climb up to a gully, and then another little climb up towards the summit. Should be a fun day.
As soon as the logging road ends, it is straight uphill. No breaks, no ridge walks, just up.
We're about halfway in terms of elevation, and the tree line is starting to open up, and I'm beginning to see why people would want to do this hike. The view is incredible, and we got a beautiful day. You really can't ask for much more. It's about 12, 13 degrees here on the mountain, and there's not a cloud in the sky. How are you now?
Good, and you?
Oh, not so bad.
We've been sharing the path with a couple people this morning, which isn't so bad unless they're playing death metal. We are only 300 meters from the top, which means we've crushed 700 meters. Now it's more of a rock climb up to the top, so it gets a little bit riskier. However, none of it's actually that exposed, which makes me happy. I know you guys are gonna judge me for always wearing my hair down while we're hiking. I do have a reason for it. It gets way more knotted when it's up. It's just easier to brush it when it's already down. Get yourself a wet brush. We are super close to the top, and the view is already awesome. It's another 100 meters to the top. It's getting easier, but it's a little bit loose rock, which makes it a little harder. I would much sooner take the rock climb, I think.
To the summit, and the views are breathtaking. There's a 360-degree view. We can even see mainland British Columbia. We can see Strathcona Provincial Park. I think at this point it's best we put the camera down because going down this mountain is not going to be easy. There's a lot of loose shale and it's very steep. We have another summit planned for either tomorrow or the day after. We're not really sure, but we need to find a good camping spot first. It felt great to put some fresh clothes on and just freshen up a little bit after hiking Mount Arrowsmith because, well, it's been really dry here on the island and the path itself was incredibly dirty, which meant we were just straight up kicking up dust on ourselves. We decided to do Mount Klitsa tomorrow and just get it over with. I'm still kind of shaking after that drive. To get to the trailhead alone, there was this crazy connection of logging roads that we had to take. By far the worst logging roads we've driven on the entire trip. I'm so impressed with our minivan. There's even one point that I'm honestly not even sure we're gonna get back up. It's just a straight like 15-20% grade over rocks and sand. But just to give you some context, we did 37 kilometers of logging road and it took us an hour and a half. I'm really glad we got to the trailhead here tonight though, because we're 2 kilometers from the trailhead, which means our hike is gonna be 4 kilometers longer tomorrow. So we're gonna have to get an early start. Good morning, guys. From somewhere way out in the bush on Vancouver Island, I had a really peaceful sleep last night, and where we are, we were definitely not bothered. No trucks, no cars, no vehicles. I honestly don't even think you could really pass here during the night because of how dark it gets and how dangerous the roads can be. Our situation has changed quite a bit since last night. The trailhead is further up this road behind me. As we found out by trying to go up it, you actually, well, you really need four-wheel drive. The problem though is that by not getting close enough to the trailhead, it doubled the length of our hike, and Kirsten and I did not agree on proceeding here. So by that virtue, we've decided to go back down the logging road and head towards Port Alberni to try and figure something out. Oh, I don't like this much. Just keep going. Keep going. Do good. Just can't stop. Just cannot stop. That's not good. No, that's not good. That's not gosh. This is really scary. Really borderline. Really borderline. Oh my god. My legs are still trembling from that. We almost didn't make it up, like 3/4 of the way up. The traction control light was flashing and I could hear the wheels spinning hard. Finally got to a path that actually had proper traction, but the gravel in that path was really, really loose and it was bumpy. Definitely not made for front wheel drive minivans. I would certainly want to bring an all-wheel drive next time we come back to do that.
This is a pretty beautiful spot to stop and have coffee and toast with peanut butter. We've got a gorgeous view of the valley in front of us and all of the Port Alberni mountains.
I didn't really think about this part. I never thought I would be so happy in my life to see pavement. Those Forest Service roads are atrocious. There's potholes everywhere. There's loose gravel, rocks. So I'm just really proud of our van for how far we've been able to take it on these Forest Service roads. Doing a lot of these logging roads in the minivan is probably not best for our Routan's future, and we probably won't be doing too much more of it on this trip anyways. So we're gonna do something that we've been meaning to do to give our Routan a special treat.
Someone's skiing! Now that our baby girl is all clean, or at least a lot cleaner than she was, now we can go do a little bit more adventuring, just without the Forest Service roads. Luckily, there is so many cool things to see just off the main highway headed to Tofino. We're on Highway 4, which is the Pacific Rim Highway, and it leads along Sprout Lake, which we were actually on the other side of yesterday. It looks like everyone here just loves to have a great time. We've just seen a jet ski, there's a water plane across from where I'm looking, a big one at that. It's going slow.
I'm quickly learning here in BC that if you want to find a camp spot for the night, pretty much all you got to do is turn down a Forest Service road and you will not be far from a campsite. We only went about 1 kilometer down a Forest Service road and here we are. And it's clearly a very popular campsite. There's like 5 or 6 at least other parties that I've seen here camping.
It's pretty obvious that there's a couple criteria that we need for a spot, and so do other people. Flat land, maybe a fire pit if you're lucky, close to water, view not so bad, and pretty easy to get to. And I think that's why it's us and half a dozen other parties here today.
The only downside of this campsite is that there is a highway on the other side of the river, but I've slept just fine at some rest sites along this with trucks idling, so I really don't think it's gonna bother me too much. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have a very sound sleep tonight.
We've got something that we've tried off camera that worked out okay, so we're gonna try it again tonight. I'm actually pretty excited because this is probably one of our favorite meals that we make at home, so I think it should turn out just fine.
Kirsten's Cooking Show. This is Kirsten's Cooking Show from our minivan.
So today we are making nachos, which is one of Richard and my favorite meals. I know it's probably not the best meal for you, but it's pretty darn tasty. This recipe is probably not perfect. We are gonna do it on the griddle because it turns out a little bit better. I'm going to start with warming up these beans that we purchased. They are beans with corn and pepper. I'm also gonna make some guacamole today. We're gonna have on the nachos itself some veggie grind as well as some cheese and tomato. Normally we would add green onions, but I forgot to buy them. So first thing I cut up was the tomatoes. The next thing I'm gonna do is heat up these black beans because they don't require the griddle. And once I put the griddle on, I won't be able to warm up anything else after that, as you can't put a pot on it. Now that the beans are on, I'm going to warm up the veggie grind. I prefer it pretty well cooked till the point where it gets nice and crumbly rather than soft like it is right now. Hopefully it helps to melt the cheese just a little bit because we need all the help we can get when you don't have an oven. I have our favorite chips, which are the que pasa tortilla chips. We've got some leftover yellow ones and the blue ones, which are my personal favorite. So you can't have that. My personal favorite is old cheddar, but you can use whatever makes you happy. Now that we have our cheese and our base level of nachos, we're gonna sprinkle some tomatoes, followed by some of the ground meat, and build it up from there. Just repeat, repeat, repeat until you reached as high as you want. Nachos are assembled. Time to hit the griddle with them. Just gonna put them back here on our camp stove and use this wonderful wok to cover them to help keep the heat in. Gonna set it as low as I can, and it'll probably take a good 5 to 10 minutes. Like I said, 10 minutes later, we're ready to eat.
And I'm hungry.
The cheese isn't perfectly melted, but I mean, when
Don't
you're
care.
working with the stovetop, what can you say?
I like.
You like?
Mm-hmm. I'm curious to try with the bean though.
Well, the beans are good.
I would recommend that. That's good.
I know I didn't make them, but they're definitely good. It's really nice to bring a taste of home to camping, especially when you've been on the road as long as we have. It just makes everything feel that much more normal.
Especially when you have yummy nachos. Well, it's been a pretty adventurous and strange couple of days, to say the least. We've had so many things not go according to plan, but you know what? That's just kind of how life is sometimes.
There's always a bright side, and that was finding this amazing camping spot, and I'm really glad we did. I know we're sharing it with a lot of people, but honestly, a place that's as nice looking as this, I'm not surprised that we are sharing it with so many people.
Tomorrow we're going to be waking up and heading towards probably the most touristy part of Vancouver Island. I'm wondering if we're going to do some stuff we don't normally do because we're not the tourist type, but in Tofino, you got to do what the tourists do. Anyways, thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you in the morning in our next video.
Bye.